Hola chicos míos, soy señorita Schaefer y hoy vamos a hablar de la gramática de capítulo 2b y vamos a hablar de the plurals of nouns and articles. So, esta información está en página 110 de sus libros de texto, and we're going to learn how to talk about multiple things. So the big question that I want you to be thinking about as we work through this video is, how do we talk about multiple objects at once? So please go ahead and write that question at the top of your notes and then leave some space where we can answer that. All right, we've got a couple of basic rules here. Rule number 1, to make nouns plural, you usually add an S to words ending in vowels and an ES to words ending in a consonant. Now, just a quick reminder, your vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and your consonants are anything else. Okay, so in Spanish that does include the Y. Y is like sometimes a vowel. Okay, but your vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and then your consonants are anything else. So if we look at these words here, silla is one of your vocab words. That means chair. So if we want to say chairs, we'll just say sillas. Okay? Teclado is a keyboard. So if we want to say keyboards, we'll say teclados. This is a lot like English. Okay? We do the same thing. We add the S. Okay? Now, however, here we have cartel. Cartel means poster, and it ends in a consonant. It's not a vowel, so it's a consonant. So what we're going to need to do is add ES. So we have carteles. Okay, the only really exception to that rule that we're going to work on today is that singular nouns that end in, we missed one. Singular verbs that end in a Z change the Z to C in the plural. Because in Spanish, the Z and the E just don't work together very well. So we're going to change it. So instead of el lápiz, we're going to have los lápiz, and then we're going to change the Z to a C. So we have los lápices. Okay. If you want to do nariz, nariz means nose. Okay, so then we would have narices. Please go ahead and make sure you have these two rules written down, along with at least one example for each, a consonant, a vowel, and a Z. And then we'll go on to the next page, and we're going to talk about articles. So you'll remember that your articles are el and la are your definite articles. Sorry, I should say indefinite articles here. Your indefinite articles are un and una. Now remember, el and la mean the, and un and una mean a or an. Okay, so when we make our verbs plural, we also need to, when we make our nouns plural, we also have to pay attention to making their articles plural. So in English, for example, we would say a disc, but we wouldn't say a discs, right? We would say some discs. So the stays the same, but in English, the plural would be some. So here we go. El changes to los. So we have los relojes. La changes to las. So we'll have las ventanas. Un changes to unos. So we'll have unos disquetes. And una changes to unas. So we'll have unas mesas, some tables. So the feminine forms, la and una, really are pretty easy because you just add the S, right? Women are less complicated. The male form, el and un, are a little bit trickier because el changes to los, and then un, you have to add that OS. So our question today was, how do we talk about multiple objects at once? And before you do this, I'm just going to warn you, there's one more slide that has a little bit of homework on it. Super easy, just to make sure we understand. Okay, so don't stop now. But what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the answer to how do we talk about multiple objects at once. We had a couple rules, right? For words that end in vowels, we add S. For words that end in consonants, remember anything except for A, E, I, O, U, we add ES. For words that end in a Z, we change it to a C, and then add the ES. And then the other thing that I want for you to do is I want for you to go ahead and write your el, la, and your un and una, and then the plural forms of those. So el turns into los, la turns into las, un turns into unos, and una turns into unas. Sorry, that's a U. All right. Now, before you go, we have one more page. Please do remember that if you have any questions, this is a great time to write them down on your paper so that you can remember to ask them in class. And then before you go, I'm just going to ask you on your paper with the other your answer to the question, please write the plural forms of the articles and nouns below. So we'll do the first one together, and then I'm going to ask you to do the other three on your own. Okay, so for la bandera, first we'll say, okay, how do we change la to the plural? So that would be las. And then we'll look at bandera and we say, okay, it ends in a vowel, so we just have to add a S. So our answer is las banderas. Okay, please go ahead and do that with the rest. That's it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have an excellent rest of your day.